Welcome to the 2025 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I am Neha Jagnani, and today's session takes us into a powerful theme, developing a coaching mindset at the workplace. To dive into this exciting conversation, we have Sasidhar Ambatipudi. He has close to 16 years of experience with careers in finance and human resources. His journey has been through audit, IT services, and product organizations. In his current role, he is the director of HRBP and also leads the DIB functions at Pegasystems India. He's passionate about coaching and he's an ICF certified professional coach. He believes in a coaching mindset, is a universally applicable, and gives a very different paradigm to self and others. Beyond work, he's also certified yoga instructor. Sasidhar, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Wonderful, Neha. Always great to be talking to the team HRAI. Lot of passion and great topic. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Excited for this masterclass, Sasidhar. So to kick things off, my first question to you is, what does it truly mean to adopt a coaching mindset? And how is it different from any traditional management or mentoring approaches?
Absolute wonderful question because it took me some time when I started the coaching journey to really differentiate between the several forms that exist. Right? The usual words that we hear parallelly to coaching, but not actually what coaching embodies, happens to be words like managing, mentoring, counseling, sponsoring. And then of course there is coaching. See, coaching is different from rest of them fundamentally because it believes the premise of coaching is that the client or the coachee is actually wholesome. They have in it what takes to solve what's on their mind or reset their priorities. However, there is some amount of thought partnership required so that through active listening, reflective inquiry, people can see through some of their priorities and emerge with solutions.
Right.
It starkly contrasts with how management as a philosophy works, right? Where you set targets, enable teams, measure on results, and be very prescriptive in its guidance,
Sure.
right? Or mentoring, for example. Mentoring embodies, and it's a very important concept as well, that people walk the path, they have experience, they turn back and share their experience and wisdom.
Right.
But coaching helps you develop an ownership mindset. It starts off with the premise that you own your results and you have it in you what it takes. However, let's talk through on that one. And that reflective inquiry, when the coach asks questions, the coachee processes, responds back, have those delightful moments where you suddenly reshape the problem that you're thinking, will over time emerge as a solution that they haven't thought before the coaching session. And of course there are various levels to it. The most important piece is coaching is as much about the person as much as about the problem that they are currently thinking through,
Sure.
whereas most of the other models directly talk through on the problem itself, right?
Right.
At this stage, it's just coming to my mind and I'll refer this to the audience. There is this book called Coach the Person, Not the Problem. Dr. Marcia Reynolds is the author. That will give a very thorough understanding on how our worldview as an individual is built by the values, the beliefs, the experiences that we carry. And we sometimes need an external person helping us think through so that you reshape the problem and come out of it in a different manner, right? So that in a nutshell is what coaching is all about.
Sure. So can we safely say that coaching mindset is more about unlocking somebody's potential more than just prescribing solutions? Because you mentioned the part about ownership that makes the person
Yes.
take ownership of things and lead forward. So thank you
Yeah,
so much.
we can by all means. Just one thing there though, a coaching mindset believes that I can solve something or I can work this through. A coach would ideally have to believe in that coaching mindset, which is what ICF, the International Coaching Federation, also says. Embodies a coaching mindset is one of its primary competencies,
Right.
basis which the entire conversations really go through. So yes, brilliantly caught.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sasidhar. So, moving on to the next question, which is, what are some practical ways that leaders can integrate coaching into everyday conversations without
Mhm.
making it feel like a formal exercise.
That's the toughest thing that the world needs to do right now. Somewhere there is this mindset that I have my entire work and then there is coaching to do. The ability to integrate both is really where I think it all lies. It goes back to an example of an individual that I was following. His name is Bill Campbell. Bill Campbell. Actually, there's a book on this individual and the methodology he used. He pretty much coached half of Silicon Valley CEOs, by the way, as a professional coach, right? There is this book called The $1 Trillion Coach, where this is very beautifully set in terms of how in your regular cadence you bring in the coaching movements rather than see it as a one-off intervention that you need to invest time, effort, and money in, right? So when you look at coaching interactions between a coach and coachee, it is best explained through this model called SCARF, SCARF, right? It's about what's the coach or the coachee discuss and what the coachee feels really. So SCARF stands for S for status, which is about am I feeling valued, am I feeling respected, am I being understood and listened to, which is very important. Number two is C. SCARF C stands for certainty. It's about do I know what to expect? Is it ambiguous or is it unambiguous? You see, anything unexpected will create stress levels in the brain because you start scanning environment for threats. So certainty is very important. And SCA stands for autonomy, and which is at the bedrock of coaching. The coach wouldn't stand there or sit there and give solutions. They will help you choose. So that sense of autonomy becomes very important.
Right.
R stands for relatedness. It's about am I feeling connected, not only to the coach, but also to the others in my stakeholder base, right? And last is, of course, F for fairness, equity, right? It's a very important word. Am I seeing things move in a just manner, in a manner that is perceived to be fair, etc.? So, to your question on the leadership, on how they can embed, right? You see, leaders set the tone for the organization. There's a famous saying that the tone is set at the top and then it trickles down and soaks the organization, right? So, leadership ability to heighten the autonomy piece in the scarf as well as the status piece, right? These two will unlock what is called as psychological safety. And it is in that zone when every individual in the organization would like to actually give their best. They will come openly and talk about their failures. They will raise hand when they need help, right? So what a leader could actually do is to increase these two by actually being vulnerable, by actually talking about it, saying that, hey, here is what I want to do in this. Set the contract or the tone first as to what is the outcome. Here is like, I would love to invite your opinions, right? Or it can be around, here is how we can co-create solutions, which is invitation, again, the autonomy piece of it.
Right.
So the actions, the language, if it is modeled on the scarf way of things, naturally your outcome would be a very engaged population. That's what leaders could really deliberate on, how their styles are coming across.
Sure. Beautifully explained, Sasidhar. Such an insightful framework, scarf. So it all
Scarf.
boils down to the fact that when you make people feel valued, when they are heard, that's when they thrive. And coaching can actually, these things could be the starting point for any leader to integrate coaching mindsets in the organization.
Coaching mindset. One thing I will tell you, since you mentioned that, right? You see, in neuroscience, which is the basis for coaching, there is a very important concept that all of us should know. It's called a generative illumination movement, right? Usually, in the way we are living, we have an opinion on everything, right? This is how it works. This is what the problem means. This is how the person will react. These preformed notions, right? Or our worldview or definitions sometimes are given a surprising twist through reflective questions in a coaching conversations. That's when suddenly what you are expecting is challenged or gently surprised. That nudge is the aha moment in a coaching conversation. That creates stickiness for the individual to reshape their thinking. Otherwise, it is just a conversation at a mental level, right? Your conscious level. For the coach to hit at a subconscious level is when in during the conversation there is a very subtle challenge or a very subtle expansion of your thought process, creating aha moments, which is why coaching is unique among the mentoring, sponsoring, and all the other things we thought of, because
Sure.
they just operate plane out at a mental plane, right? So
Absolutely.
that's one thing I want to call out. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Beautifully put, Sasidhar. So, my next question to you is how can organizations build psychological safety so employees feel comfortable being coached and also coaching others?
Yeah, yeah. If there is one topic written a lot in the recent 3 to 4 years, if I would say, it's on psychological safety, right? Because it's known to have a very positive correlation to high performance, trust, and more importantly, retention. When I'm talking in the organizational context, right, where psychological safety really unlocks peak level performance. There is a McKinsey article that I keep referring in several conversations. If you heard about it, let me know at the risk of repetition. But of the several types of leadership that exists, where there is a directive leadership style, there is a freedom, there is a challenging leadership, there is a sociable leadership. There are many styles of leadership, right? There is one particular leadership style which is called out by Bill Campbell, the person I spoke about earlier, and it talks so beautifully to the McKinsey report that a balance of deep trust and deep candor. It's like, hey, I know you can do your job, you're competent. I trust you with the decisions of day to day, along with radical candor, which manifests as feedback. This went well, this did not go well. How can I support you? I know you want to do it, right? If the trust element is high and then comes the candor, what you have is a very psychologically safe place. If the candor is high, which means I get feedback without me asking all the time, but I don't seem to be trusted enough in the system, creates disengagement. Right? So, what organizations can do to make psychologically safe places is to firstly educate the leaders on this framework and really talk about how you should balance trust with the individuals versus feedback on the work. It's usually the other way around. It's trust with the output, but feedback is on the individual. Now, that wouldn't quite be a recipe for success. There are other elements we could do as well, of course, in terms of leadership being vulnerable. They can say things like, and I love it when my first manager back in my organization used to come into the meetings and say, I don't have all the information, but given what I have, I feel this is the best way for us to work forward as a team. If anybody has a different opinion, please voice it. Happy to co-create solutions with you. That vulnerable mindset, when the leader does it at an organization level, the team members model it. So being vulnerable is the second one. There are several others, but let me take a pause. Yeah.
Great point there, Sasidhar. So I can gather that psychological safety actually grows when the trust is nurtured, and of course,
Yeah.
at the same time, it is balanced with the candor, as you rightly mentioned by the McKinsey model. So thank you so much. My next question is, what common barriers prevent managers from taking on to the coaching role, and how can these be overcome?
The first response or reaction to that question uh, is actually a very obvious one, at least in the Indian context, right? And I do talk to coaches and coaches globally, but mostly when I talk in the India region, I generally see the lack of awareness being the first reason. We start off with the same question: how is coaching different from the other forms of management, right? People are still not very clear. Coaching is seen as a discussion without an outcome, but it's not, right? The whole point of coaching is you give that clarity so that people can run at their speed, not at your speed as a manager, right? So the first thing is awareness, clearly talking to them, telling them, training them, giving them that enablement through resources, set of questions, live demos. I think that entire knowledge base would be the first barrier. If it is not there, people may not adopt it. The second one, really, and I would like to spend a few seconds on this one, is coaching is seen as a soft subject, right? And I've heard it personally. I coach a lot of people, and when I talk to them as to, hey, what are you doing for your teams? What is the biggest thing that you have moved? What stood out in conversations with your team members, etc. The answers are usually, I asked a question that they weren't expecting, versus there was the sense of openness that the individual opened up and shared. Then that's the question and the answer. If you feel as a manager that coaching is very soft, fluffy, conversation based, non outcome based conversation, then here is an example, right? The whole point is we humans don't work in very predictable mechanical patterns. We need that space where we can just talk through our concerns, our risks, etc. While in a natural funnel system, the manager guides them towards an outcome. They say in coaching, insight without action is dangerous. It's like I come up with a lot of ideas, etc. But then what? Right? And that's the third thing a manager should do. A barrier as to why it's not happening is because managers engage in conversation by going in with a particular mindset that this is what I want. Rather, if you take a step back and say, what I want is to get the individual to sign up on something, then you walk in with a different mindset. You don't walk in with how the individual should react, but you will walk in with the sense of, I will make the individual open up, have a meaningful conversation. So I usually recommend this to managers, saying that once you walk in, start with the contracting. Hey, what do you want to achieve in this conversation? That puts the autonomy high in the scarf model, right? And then you start asking, what are the barriers currently? What have you tried? Okay, why do you think this is urgent? That will help them scan their own mind, right? They will feel high on some of the other elements of the scarf. Towards the end, start by nudging a little bit of experience and experimentation. All right, now that we discussed all of this, what is the one little step you can take? This is where you convert insight into action, right? And then finally, you end it with a commitment. How can I help you hold yourself honest to this? Who will be your accountability partner? How do you know you're progressing? Right? Questions like this. Then naturally, they will start with redefining the problem, going to the nuances, arriving at one or two action items, and holding themselves accountable. That is a structure of how one coaching conversations can go. This is not there in the mind of a regular manager today, right? So to your point on barriers, this could be the form of education. So few more, but again, let me take a pause.
Sure. Thank you so much. Great insights there. I think it's all about making it a more reflective conversation where you're listening to a person, understanding the problem from their perspective, and then walking and co-working with that person step by step in order to establish that commitment and follow through. So thank you so much for that.
May I just take a minute on
Yeah,
giving an example that I particularly faced, a story serene, right? So
sure.
one of my managers in my previous companies told this, right? So, well, I'll be honest, I goofed up on a very big analysis of data, and we published a PPT out of it. We even presented to our leader. And then in the hindsight, when we were relooking at the numbers, I realized that I made a big mistake, right? The natural expectation is the manager will storm through the room, break the table, ask me some tough questions, and I have to face. Like, um, I did ping my manager saying that, hey, I noticed something, looks like I made a mistake, but let's talk about it. Now, immediately the manager walked into where I was sitting, and the first question was, much to not what I was expecting, as to why did this happen? How could you do this? Said that um, you thought through on this, right? Tell me what can we do to fix it? What do you think is the next big step, right? So that put the autonomy in my thing. It put status in me because I didn't feel disrespected. So back to the scarf model, right? 2 to 3 boxes checked with just one question, right? So your approach will just stretch my brain, and I said I'm going to put all my energy in solving this rather than protecting myself. You see, this is how managers can unlock value.
Sure. Beautiful example, Sasidhar. Thank you so much. So this brings us to the last question, Sasidhar, which is how can a coaching culture impact performance, employee engagement, and long-term leadership development in an organization?
Right, right, sure. Basically the ROI of coaching, right? Coaching by itself has three different arcs of impact, and all the three you have pretty much called out, right? Let's look at engagement. People stay in organizations when they know and see that they are growing in titles, growing in learning, growing in respect, whatever it's they need. But they need positive movement on the subject of their choice, of what interests them. That is a direct translator into how engaged they are, and they will be retained in the organization, right?
Right.
Now, what coaching does is, if you really see in the scarf model, the certainty that I know good work gives me this, I know my ideas are contributed and valued, I know I can bring together, challenging stuff, I can talk to my manager, co-create solutions. This level of engagement, when they have people surrounding them with a similar mindset of openness, which is what coaching gives, then naturally engagement is a byproduct. Performance is absolutely yes, yes, because performance hinges on the fact that I'm clear what I need to do, as well as I have the means to deliver results, right? Coaching is precisely that. What we do in coaching is to really unlock people's thought process and really tell them, reshape the problem, rethink your capabilities, and reignite your efforts from there onwards. Right? Performance is a very direct outcome of coaching conversations, because people will now start challenging their own thoughts or restate the problem to really look at their next best step. That said, the last one, of course, is leadership. We did talk about some of these things related to fairness in SCARF model, or the accountability piece, right? Where it's really up to the leaders to really state a vision that's really exciting, but then give people the kind of enablement and autonomy for them to do what they are hired to do. They are the experts in their fields. So leadership really comes in actually giving the right vision as well as the means, and then step back, right? In coaching they say, the leader who's the higher self-aware the leader is, the more the team really starts getting creative, because the more self-aware you are, you will let natural styles flourish in the team, right? So that's really how it has to be looked at. Lastly, I want to conclude by saying this one. You see, they say an organization culture is like soil, and the coaching techniques are like seeds, right? Without the proper culture where trust and safety are, your seeds will never germinate as coaching. So there are many coaches worldwide, many organizations worldwide, but the benefit of coaching occurs when there is a environment which supports and promotes coaching. Otherwise, I'll end up having some fabulous ideas and keeping it in my mind only. Right? So that's what it is.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sasidhar. This brings us to the end of this masterclass. And on behalf of HRAI, I thank you for your insights. And what stood out for me was the fact that coaching mindset is less about technique and more about intent. You know, it has the ability to empower people. So thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you. Always great to talk on this topic. Thank you, Neha and team.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.